G'day, Gary here. Welcome to BookMob episode 91. Today I'm going to do a quick review of Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights, a book I read many years ago and have reread. I think this could be my third time. And I'm just basically want to talk about how the book is more popular because of popular culture movies. And the one thing you find that when you see a new film coming out about, or television series about Wuthering Heights, the first thing that pops into people's minds is romance. And this idea that Heathcliff is some Hollywood heartthrob, and that Catherine is some kind of Hollywood starlet, and the story is about love or gothic love or dark love. When in fact, Heathcliff is kind of like American Psycho, but set on the moors, because the book is got nothing to do with romance. It's such a well written story. I mean, I saw an article in I think it was The Guardian or something like that online about how people can't read Wuthering Heights, but it's such an easy book to read, and it's a really, really good story, and it's told in a very unique way with the timeline. And again, a lot of people think that Wuthering Heights, the story, is set in mid 19th century, when in fact it's the last years of the 18th century and into the very, very early 19th century. So that's where Hollywood cuts in to the story, and it does create a different sense that what most people find access to Wuthering Heights through movies. And there is a movie coming out really soon, and I think it's directed by Emerald Fennell, with Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi as Heathcliff. And again, Hollywood again just can't be satisfied with a great story. I mean, it's such Heathcliff is such a sick, sort of demented individual. He's cruel, he's heartless, and the idea that that Hollywood has taken this sort of male character and turned him into like a brooding sort of James Dean love puppy. And I think there was the 1991 or 1992, way back then, I think the BBC did a production with Ralph Fiennes, and I think he played sort of Heathcliff as more of the bastard that he is. But I can't recall. I saw that decades ago, and I can't really. But I just know that it was done. But again, the idea that in the 90s, I think one of the first films was made with Laurence Olivier in the 1939, and that basically domesticated this sort of this really, really savage story. And I mean, my attitude is the book is premier. Wuthering Heights as a read is engaging, it's scary, it's frightening, it's very interesting. And if you take a Bachelor of Arts degree towards it, if that's how you want to look at it, if you want to break it down, there's just so many aspects you can get into. You've got the idea that marriage is transactional, and that attachment is disastrous for everyone, that incestuous desire is played out throughout society, and the idea that you could marry Emily Bronte's private life, her home life, her domestic life with her sisters and her brother. I think Branwell was a bit of a loser. He was into gambling and boozing up and probably visiting prostitutes, who knows. And you get this idea of these women with this guy trapped in their own domestic vicarage, and you can extrapolate from that the ideas that Emily Bronte has been trying to get through for years. Aside from that, and that's what I'm saying, you can do that if you wish. You can watch the movies and pretend that you know Wuthering Heights. But there's only one way you're going to enjoy Wuthering Heights, and it is an enjoyable, entertaining read. It really is. It's written in such a bizarre manner with sort of these sort of layers of narrative, but the story just flows. The characters are thick, and it is enjoyable and entertaining. You don't need to do anything else to Wuthering Heights. It plays so well as a novel. Call it a gothic novel, whatever you want. But the idea that this young writer is not Emily Bronte is not Catherine. I'm sure there are elements of her personality in it. And again, most people are going to access the novel, even if they bother to after watching the latest film that comes out, where it's going to be people taking filmmakers or creatives, taking aspects of the novel, putting it into a story, but then claiming that it is Wuthering Heights. It's not. I guarantee you, I haven't seen the film, I haven't read about it, but I guarantee you this new Wuthering Heights film is going to be nothing like this fantastic, brilliantly well-written, well-structured, with a fantastic story that it's enjoyable. I couldn't put it down. Well, I couldn't put it down. Don't be scared by the period it was written, and I think it's 1849, or I always forget the exact date, 1847. And it's just, it's written for an audience to enjoy. And it is very, very rough. Heathcliff is such a bastard. The guy is just nuts. And what he does, okay, there's some kind of reconciliation with his past towards the end. And again, you can deep dive into that in your own time. You can see how the character... Okay, I'm not going to give any... well, maybe everyone, if people watch the film, they're not going to know the real story, because mainly the film versions basically concentrate on the first volume of this 3-volume novel, in a sense, and it doesn't really go all the way as the novel does, through a generational change of characters who are related, and all through this runs Heathcliff as this complete and utter sadistic motherfucker who just basically is so vengeful he cannot even see the end of his nose. He spites, he cuts off his nose to spite his... cuts off your nose to spite his face. Spite whatever. Anyway, and I've already seen various commentaries about the new film. And again, the commentaries are relating the film to the novel, to the writer Emily Bronte, and the films are divorced from the novel. It's kind of sad. I mean, if you want to look at it this way, Heathcliff is an abusive. Catherine is cruel. She's self-pitying. None of the characters are very admirable in the book. But when you make a film, it's very hard to make a film that doesn't kind of have romance, doesn't have a love story. I mean, if you're going to write a love story, just make a love story. Just make up a story. You don't have to steal the dignity and integrity of a wonderful novel in order to sell a brand. Heathcliff is a brand now. Wuthering Heights is a sub-brand, or is it the other way around? Wuthering Heights is the brand and Heathcliff is a sub-brand. I mean, most people don't even know Catherine. They'll you say to someone Heathcliff, and they kind of their cultural brain picks it up. And I just think that the madness of the novel is just, people for some reason are not going to pay, producers or film distributors or they're not going to make money of a film that is kind of just bleak throughout. Really, there's only, there's just a smidgen of humanity in this book towards the end, and making a film like that, I guess, is just not on the cards. So, Wuthering Heights is not a romance. There's no romance in this book. There's no romance between Catherine and Heathcliff. There's sort of like this heated sort of relationship. There's the possibility that they're brother and sister. I mean, that looms over throughout the whole book, because her father goes to Liverpool and comes back with this young kid who's just this. I mean, he just picks up this gypsy kid from the sidewalks or near the harbour in Liverpool, in England. I'm talking about, and he just brings him home, and there's no introduction real, and he grows up with Catherine, and they're a brother and a sister of sorts. But in the book, he's just introduced by the father, and it plays so well. Again, the book is just so well written. It's such a fascinating, bleak story about people, and I love the fact that I love the Bronte sisters. I love the whole idea. I wonder. I don't know. I think someone could make a fascinating documentary on the Bronte sisters in their house. They're all three creating. I think Charlotte Bronte was the only one of the children to marry, and they all died young. The same with characters dying. Everyone dies young, consumption and tuberculosis and bacterial infections. So life was bloody rough. And even in Emily Bronte's own life, I mean, she's living through the death of sisters, and she also died very young. And I think that the strong thing about the Brontes is this great sort of modern creative vision of these three wonderful women, these three writers living in the same house with their father, and creating these stories. I mean, we don't know how they communicated each other's ideas, how they shared their stories. Charlotte, being the last sister, I think, alive, she was the one that kind of re-edited things and made explanations for Emily's sort of harshness of language. And I don't mean the actual use of language, but about Emily's real sort of provoking, hateful text. And I think because she was the last one who had control over it, there might be aspects of the novel that Charlotte Bronte removed, between text from different variations throughout the decades since the book was published. And I suppose it is a fascinating. I have read a Bronte's biography, but I've forgotten much about it. It was so many years ago. But I would love to see an updated version about these three great creative forces. And I'm actually getting through another reading of The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, which is written by Anne Bronte. And I mean, the difference, Anne Bronte's writing is much denser, it's thicker, it's more metaphorical, whereas Emily is a storyteller. She tells stories in a very, even though the narrative is kind of layered, it is still a very, very engaging and complex, but easily consumed story. Brilliant book. I just hope that maybe one day someone will make an authentic film through of Wuthering Heights, and then give people access through the film to the book, and that when they read the book, because I reckon most young people who will see these films, they're going to go, oh, okay, and they're going to pick up this book. And they're going to go, what the fuck's going on? This has got nothing to do, And I think that is a failure of culture. However, the book has been around since 1847, or 150 or whatever years. It is still powerful. It is still very, very enjoyable. It's entertaining. It's a great story. It's gritty. It's nasty. Like I said, Heathcliff is the psycho on the moors, and I really, really enjoyed this second or third reading, much more than I did when I was younger, I might add. And I think it is, pick up the book, pick up Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and read the book before you go out and see any of the films, because it will give you some understanding and allow you to enjoy the films at a deeper level. So that's all that is for the moment. Thanks for coming. I'll get to another episode as soon as I can. Like I said, I'm just reading this other Bronte. Great story. Again, it's the same vein. Nasty people doing horrible things to each other, which is fun to read. Fun to read in fiction, because I would imagine that being stuck in the Bronte household, where all of them were so smart, so intelligent, so creative, that they must have had sort of these jousts, these sort of narrative jousts with each other, who could come up with really nasty pieces of shit characters to kind of explore their own sexual frustrations, their own lack of outside sort of contact. They didn't live the Brontes didn't live remotely. I mean, they lived remotely, but they didn't live in the middle of. They didn't live like the characters from Wuthering Heights. They were, they had a social circle, and it makes you wonder why they didn't get married and enjoy family life. That would be great to explore, and I wonder if these books because the men in these books are real pricks, and deservedly so in the stories. So yeah, I'm getting carried away. All right, please read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Great book, fun read. If you like dastardly characters, and again, nothing to do with the film. The film should not be taking from this, but it does. That's the way the world is, and hopefully some of you will watch the film and perhaps get through the novel. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Beautiful literature. All right, thanks for coming. I'll see you soon, and hopefully you're still reading, you're buying books, you're reading books, you're swapping books. Remember, just read. It's fun. Bye.